Welcome to this live stream. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. So, before we get started, though, I want to give a shout out to all our new channel members. Abdul Latif Mousse, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I mispronounce your name. Walter McLean. Again, I'm trying to not pronounce everybody's names wrong, so let me know if I did. And Sudanshu Oja, congrats for joining the channel membership. So, guys, welcome to the live stream, as I said, and what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit of just my morning routine, or not my morning routine, my daily routine for learning. What are my daily habits that helped me? One, way back, I'll talk about the ones that helped me actually publish an internationally published text, basically full academic text that's in university libraries around the world. Hey, good morning, Nikhil. Good evening, Nikhil. Um, and so I'll talk about what I did at that time. What were my daily habits? What really helped me? What were some of my cornerstone habits at that time when I was actually learning all the material and researching all the material for that book? But at the same time, I'll talk about some of the habits that I engage in today on a daily basis that help me continuously research, continuously refine my knowledge, and all of that. Some of it's going to be pretty common sense, all right? Some of it's going to be pretty common sense, and then others are going to be things that maybe you have not thought about before. So let's kind of dive in. I mean, I'll go back to welcome, Nasser. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Let me know if I'm wrong. But correct me if I'm wrong. I hate mispronouncing people's names. But hello and welcome to the live stream. So yeah, way back when I was actually researching for my first book, that was kind of, I think that was probably my peak learning mode. I think I'm probably in about the same level of learning mode today, maybe even a little less, because that was just very intense. At one point, I actually was reading for real reading what, it was like 80 books in 40 days. It was really intense. You say, well, how do you do that? That's crazy. How could you do that? That's impossible. Like, you're just exaggerating. Well, you can do it if you basically from early in the morning read up until lunch and basically have like a 5 minute lunch and then read until early in the morning. You can do that. like late at night and early in the morning. You can do it. I was crazy. It was a crazy thing. But yeah. So how did I do that? And not just that, but how did I actually retain a lot of the knowledge? And I still retain a lot of the knowledge today. Of course, there are things. Of course, there are things that I can't pull out of my mind immediately, right? There might be some formulas or something like that that maybe I can't remember immediately. But back then, I wish I could say that I was like exercising and eating healthy and all that stuff. Actually, that it was not true. It was not true. It was not true. I was not, because I was in school. I was in school full time when I was writing that book. I was actually doing like heavy coursework at Columbia University, and so one of the habits though was I would get into these flow states, and you guys know about flow state. I'm sure you've heard about flow state. I'm sure you have watched YouTube videos on flow state. It's a very popular thing right now. But in case you don't understand what flow state is, flow state flow state is this area of focus that you get into that is so enjoyable because it's challenging, because of the level of challenge involved and the level of ability you have to meet that challenge. When those ingredients come together, you get into what is called a flow state where you have this maximum focus. And basically, a lot of the reason we're not able to get into that maximum focus state, a lot of us, well, you could have ADHD, you could have a lot of, there are a lot of different reasons. But one of the core reasons is that, and you need some other strategies for that. If, let's say, you have some, you're neuroatypical in any way, is fine. You have different strategies. But one of the core reasons we kind of fail to get into those flow states is that either the activity that we're engaging in, we don't have enough ability yet or skill yet to meet it, and so we need to work on other things before we get to that level of skill, or the activity is not challenging enough, right? So it's got to be on that borderline where it's just challenging, but you still have and it stretches you, but you still have that skill set that's on the borderline of being able to actually tackle it, right? And so that's what that was for me. I would get into these flow states, and long periods of time. For me, they were really long. For me, they were like 4 hours long. I would do like 4 hours. Again, I had the time when I was in college. I'll talk about today where I don't, I'm doing different things, so I have to fit in a different schedule for learning, right? I will talk about that, but I'm just going to be honest and open and talk about what my life was really like how I actually was doing that as a full-time student. So as a full-time student, I would take these 4 hour long periods of time, not for my studies, by the way. It wasn't for my studies. It wasn't for the things that I was studying in school. It was for writing this book and researching for this book. And what I would do is I would take and it would be on a daily basis. I would have these uninterrupted sessions. I would take all the reading that I would do from like, let's say, another flow state session that I had, and all the reading, all the notes that I had taken from my readings, from, let's say, clinical research that I had looked up. They could be studies, they could be philosophy articles, they could be actually books, and I would take all those notes and compile them. And this is before we had AI, right? So I would look for patterns. Now you can ask AI to look at the patterns for you and see, what are some common themes. But I would look at the patterns through the notes. I would look at some of the common themes, and I would say, okay, what are my thoughts here? How can I synthesize this? And see, this is really the key to learning something. This is a key that a lot of us miss to learning something. We think that learning involves taking in new information, and that's it. I just got to take in the new information, and I've got to, whatever. I've got to memorize it, I've got to use it, I've got to do practice problems, or whatever it is. But learning really happens when you own the information. And what do I mean by own the information? Own the information means you take all of these pieces of information that you're learning. Lawrence, welcome to the live stream. Learning really happens when you take all of these pieces of information, and what do? You synthesize them, meaning you don't just passively accept the information, but you come up with your own ideas. You connect the information in ways that maybe other people didn't connect them. So when you do this, it's actually easier for your mind to memorize it, right? If you're trying to memorize and learn information just by, okay, well, in biology, what is what are the different types of natural selection? Well, there's this and this and this and this, all right? There's, genetic drift and whatever. So, okay, well, what if you take those ideas and you think about, well, obviously you're not going to innovate you're not going to sit there and think of a new scientific concept, but how can you innovate here? How can you synthesize the information and make it your own? Well, you could actually go and read more articles about different questions that are being investigated in, let's say, genetic drift. I'm using biology as an example, learning biology, but you can you can read more articles and go deeper into, for instance, different evidence for natural selection. You can do that, and you could start to draw connections between these different concepts and have kind of little conversations in your head, right? You have little conversations in your head about what these ideas are about. So Nikhil, when you used to write the book, have you ever got this kind of feeling that this is wrong? Yes, all the time. And actually, all the time, still. I have a video dropping on Friday. It's a perfect timing for that question. This Friday, I have a video coming out that talks a little bit about the self-doubt involved in intellectual work that we do and intellectual investigation that we do. So watch out for that. But it can be overcome. It's not really overcome. You just learn to live with self-doubt. You learn to live with self-doubt because self-doubt is just part of the process. I think the thing about self-doubt is, and my dog is trying to get my attention here again. She always does this on every live stream. But anyway, basically, to counter self-doubt, you actually just have to accept that it's part of the process of learning, right? I am probably wrong. I am probably wrong about something. You have to kind of not put all of your ego into the work that you're doing. And it's really, really hard to do that. All of your self-esteem into the work that you're doing, right? If anything, you kind of just have to, it's a little bit abstract, but you kind of just have to put your ego, so to speak, into, or your self-esteem or your self-worth into just the fact that you're dedicated to this kind of lifestyle of truth and pursuing truth and wisdom. And so it's a little bit of a different, it's a little bit of a kind of a psychological journey that you have to go on with respect to self-doubt in the pursuit of truth. We'll always have it. I accept self-doubt because I'm human, right? You should just accept self-doubt because you're human, and that's okay. It shouldn't make you feel any less worthy to have self-doubt, right? We're all wrong. We're all wrong. And actually, that's really humbling to know that we're all wrong, because it means, and I talk about this a lot. You notice I talk about this a lot if you watch a lot of my videos. It means, self-doubt means I need you. I am not 100% right. I'm not 100% right. All right, it's just impossible. I am not 100%, even about the things that I think I'm really, really right about, probably I'm wrong about something, right? So we need each other for knowledge. We need each other for wisdom. Lawrence, how can one increase neuroplasticity? Well, actually, Lawrence, that exactly was what I was talking about in a sense, is when you have these, when you learn knowledge and you synthesize it and you make connections between existing concepts and you ask questions, you go deeper than just what you learn in, let's say, a standard biology class. For instance, let me give you another example, but yeah, when you do that, you actually make new connections in your brain. Your brain makes new connections. You strengthen new connections. You actually increase your plasticity that way. So don't just learn passively. Read a book, right? When you read a book or you learn new information, don't just memorize it and say, oh yes, according in this history book, this is what this happened and this happened. Oh, biology, there's genetic drift and whatever. I'll give you another example with statistics in a moment. But because I love statistics, that's actually one thing that I think statistics is deeply profound and philosophical, actually. People don't think of it that way, maybe, but I do. So when you do that, you form new connections, and you're forming those new connections. You're strengthening connections in your brain. With, hey, that might, it might actually. So no, I don't know. There's no research on that, but hey, it would be interesting to know if that helps neuroplasticity. I don't know if I'm going to get demonetized if I say that word, but yeah. So neuroplasticity, who knows? Hey, could be. Who knows? Okay, let's talk about Muhammad. Welcome, Muhammad. I hope you're having a great day. So yeah, let me take the example of statistics, and I've talked about this before a little bit, but statistics to me is deeply philosophical. Here's one way you could, for instance, learn statistics. Right? You could learn statistics by sitting in the class, and I see people do this all the time. I actually do, from time to time, I actually do teach statistics or tutor in statistics, people who come to me for that kind of help. So like college students and stuff. So here's how I see so many people learn statistics. And it's because of how statistics is taught, by and large. Here's standard deviation. Here's the normal curve. Here's how you calculate standard error. Here's how you calculate whatever, the p-value. Here's how you do a z-test and a t-test and a, if you get advanced levels, f-test, and like, here's how you do all these tests. Great, memorize this. That is a really crappy way to learn statistics, and I will be the first to say that it sucks. If I ever got to actually teach a full statistics class, again, right now from time to time, I'll tutor people in statistics. But if I taught a full statistics class, I would actually start with philosophy. I would start the class with philosophy because statistics is all about philosophy. Why do I say that? It's all about the theory of knowledge. How is knowledge possible? How is knowledge in the external world, in the empirical world, possible? How is science possible? These are deep questions. So do you see, back to neuroplasticity here, by the fact that I'm asking these deep questions, where do we get a z-test from? All right, if you know what I'm saying, it's a statistical test. Where does statistical significance really come from? Where does that, like, why is it valid? Why should I believe it? Right? Why should I believe in that? When you trace it back and you really you ask those deeper questions, you're starting to own the information. You're starting to strengthen these neural connections and see those connections that it's not that people haven't found before. There are people who came up with these tests and these constructs, right? And those people did it. But then once people learn statistics, they kind of like memorize it like it's almost like it's an ideology. You just memorize it, all right? Like it's dogma, and you don't look into it and see, why does this exist, right? There are even philosophers like Bertrand Russell. I mean, I don't know, you don't have to go this far, but Bertrand Russell wanted to know, wanted to prove 1 + 1 = 2. Guess what? It's notably very hard to prove. It's intuitive, right? Here's 1 coffee cup, here's another one, right? This is 2 coffee cups now, right? Well, so what's the deal there? Well, it turns out that it's a very complex proof involving like set theory and all this stuff. 1 + 1 = 2, and Bertrand Russell has a whole proof of it. So really fascinating stuff. But what does that do? If anything, it benefited Bertrand Russell to write that more than it did anybody, because you'd say that's pointless, right? That's pointless. 1 + 1 = 2. We all know that. But how do you know it? Prove it. How do you know it? Right? How do you know some of these fundamental things? Prove it. Or there are a lot of things that we assume that we know that we don't really know. And digging deeper into the questions actually benefits your brain, benefits your learning and retention of the information more than anything. Right? It really does. So in terms of my routine now, right? I do. It's very, very underrated, but I exercise every day. Exercise, and there's a lot of great research on it, but exercising, it doesn't have to be in the morning, but it will make you more focused and productive. It will, if you have focus issues, if you have problems with memorization and retention, literally move your body more. Move your body more. It is so underrated, but there's so much great research on it. Just start moving your body more. It does not have to be something complex. You don't have to, lift weights for 2 hours, right? You don't have to go run a marathon. Walking. Look, we have these legs. They're adapted for walking, right? They're amazing, right? So we can actually do that. And yeah, so Alvaro, I think to learn effectively is zoom in and out of the info. I think I know what you mean, Alvaro, and welcome to the live stream, by the way. So yes, I think what you're talking about is similar to what I was describing with respect to basically taking a broad view of the topic. So for instance, right, if you're trying to learn the history of China, you would zoom out and do like a broad view history of China from pre-dynastic times to the modern day, and do dynasty by dynasty, the general ideas, general trends. But then zoom in. I think what you mean by zoom in is you would go into, let's say, looking at the Tang Dynasty, specifically, and you would look at military strategy during the Tang Dynasty. You'd look at cultural trends and language trends during the Tang Dynasty. You would look at different aspects of that period of time, and then you would basically zoom in. You're zooming in and out on that topic. I love how you put that. It's kind of how I was thinking about it. But again, how you put that, this is a perfect example, Alvaro. How you actually framed that is another good point about learning, which is, and my dog is still trying to get me off of this live stream and trying to bother me, and okay, fine. She wants attention, fine. You can have some attention. Okay, now all the people see you, right? Okay, great. Now you have some attention. Don't bother me anymore. Okay, all right. Now this is just how she is. She just wants to bother me while I'm on the live stream, specifically while I'm on the live stream. Okay, so, but just the way you're describing it can help. Hi to my dog. Her name is Athena. She is, she's. I like Greek and classical philosophy and classical stuff. So her name is Athena. So goddess of wisdom and actually goddess of war too. People don't know that a lot of times. She's also the goddess of war. A lot of people just think of her as goddess of wisdom. But anyway, so if you want to learn something like that, the way you put it here, zooming in and zooming out of a topic is really, really helpful. Let me know if I got that right, by the way. Let me know if I got that right, Alvaro, that characterization. But yeah, I exercise, and then actually, because I'm very busy, I'm busy with a lot of stuff, right? I am, during the day, I do, individual tutoring, as I said. I do coaching. Of course, I run now the Critical Thinking Academy. And of course I do YouTube, I do scripting, I do ideation and research for YouTube, all this stuff that I do. So I'm really busy, but then what I'll do is during my time at the gym, like this morning, I'll just take my book with me. A lot of people are listening to music at the gym. That's great, right? You can listen to an ebook while you're at the gym. When I'm doing my cardio stuff, because it's just repetitive, not when I'm doing weights, because it's too hard to do it, but when I'm doing my cardio stuff, I'll read just for like 15 minutes. 15 minutes, that's it. 15 minutes. And you say, well, 15 minutes, how can you finish a book like every week? Which my goal is, I don't always get there, but my goal is one book a week. Often, most times I get there, sometimes I don't. How do I do it? I make up the rest of the book on the weekend when I have more time. Like on a Saturday, I'm just relaxing. Okay, I'll read my book. Also, for like every morning, I am subscribed to different RSS feeds from like behavioral science newsletters, philosophy newsletters, psychology and neuroscience and things like that newsletters, which is just my area. It's the area that I'm interested in most. And so I'll get emails from these on the latest studies, the latest research in areas that I'm interested in. I will file them away in my Notion app. I'm a big fan of using Notion. And then from there, I will categorize them. I have categories of studies. Here are studies on decision making. All right, here I have a category about studies on, morality, moral judgment, right? I have studies on group behavior, categorized in another part. I have, political polarization or something like that. I have different categories, and I will use Notion. I'm a big fan of it. It's free, right? I think there's a paid version, but you don't have to use the paid version. It's totally free. I use it. It's great. Very, very simple to use. There are a whole bunch of advanced functions on it for sure, but you don't have to use all those. It's really adequate. Then what I'll do is during the weekend, when I have more time, I will go back and I'll just peruse some of those studies, and I'll see, well, what's relevant to which of these are relevant to what I'm working on now, right? Am I working on something? Maybe I'm making a video or I'm writing something that it's relevant to now. So I'll see, well, what's relevant. And of course, I'm not just going to trust the study in that case. I'll take the topic. I'll say, this looks very interesting. I'm going to look into the actual study, look at the methods that were used, and see, okay, actually, was this good? Can I, for instance, when I'm citing the study in let's say a video or something I'm writing, can I be sure that this is actually good methods and a good study, right? So you don't just cite a study because it's a study, right? Take some time to dig deeper into the things. Alvaro, like you were saying, yes, you got it correct. I think you should also think how the concept fits within the big picture. Yeah, well, it depends. It's the big picture is relative, isn't it? The big picture is relative to what you want to focus on, and that's key, because we cannot focus, like, we're human beings, right? We cannot focus on everything. Right, we cannot focus on every little thing about about the world, about life, about, like, we do have to specialize to some degree, and so you choose with your values. It's a value judgment. What you want to focus on, what you're most passionate about, what you're most interested in, and that, learning should all have a purpose. Nikhil, yes, that is actually what I was going to talk about next. Is that I do use AI extensively for learning. Now, how do I use it? Well, for instance, I'll just give you a brief example. If something pops into my head, like, this happens when I'm at the gym. For whatever reason, like, usually when I'm just at the gym, things pop into my head. Like, something like the other day was like, oh, I wonder how, the z-test was derived, right? In statistics, how was the z-test derived? Like, how did somebody actually, like, come up with it? Where does it come from mathematically? And I said, ChatGPT, show me how to, step by step, how to derive mathematically a z-test. And where are the logical connections between the steps here? Show me step by step. And it's just really fascinating, right? It's fascinating because here's where you get to, right, Nikhil? Yeah, for sure. Here's where you get to understand things at just a deeper level. So I'm a big fan of, like, question everything. It's not, you know what I mean by that, hopefully. It does not mean reject and be skeptical about everything. It means question everything. The more assumptions we have as a society, we have tons of assumptions. Go back to those fundamental assumptions and ask more questions about them. If those assumptions truly are correct, then all you're going to do is strengthen the assumptions. If they're incorrect, you weaken the assumptions and you have new assumptions. And that's the beautiful thing. You shouldn't be afraid to weaken your own assumptions, because if they're weak, you should weaken them. If they're not good assumptions, you should weaken them. They're worthy of being weakened. It's psychologically challenging sometimes to do that, because we have a worldview. All of us have a worldview that we hold precious. But we have to be willing to potentially compromise that worldview, even if in the pursuit of truth, right? Question the foundations. So, as always, I enjoy today. My phone is running out of battery. I forgot, somehow it didn't plug in overnight or something. So, I love hanging out with you guys. This is the live stream for today, but yeah, feel free to check out the Critical Thinking Academy in the About section in my bio, or any description of my videos. And by the way, feel free to subscribe, watch my other videos, take a look at what I do. If you have any questions and you want to chat with me personally, I love chatting with people about anything personally as well, like, just having deep conversations, or you want to bring something up with me, feel free to reach out to me by email too. I'm happy to. I want to actually connect. One of the reasons I have this channel is I want to connect with everybody and make real, genuine connections with the real people that are watching and part of this community. So feel free to reach out to me. So guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Go be better in the pursuit of self-mastery today. And don't forget to help somebody else do the same thing. So I will see you in a bit. Take care, guys.